19mm socket, we'll go ahead and remove the lug nuts. Go ahead and remove the wheel. Set that aside. I'm going to use our pliers. I'm going to go ahead and remove this cotter pin on the lower ball joint. I'm going to just straighten out these tabs. Go ahead and try and grab that cotter pin there and pull that out. Using an 18mm socket, I want to go ahead and remove the lower ball joint nut. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take that nut and we're going to thread it back on a little bit. Just a few threads. We want a little bit of a gap right here. And we'll see why we're going to do that in just a moment. Using a 15mm deep socket, we're going to go ahead and remove this lower pinch bolt for the ball joint. And try and work it back and forth. I'm going to use some rust penetrant on that and soak that down. Go ahead and remove that bolt and set it aside. Now we're going to go ahead and use a small pry bar. You can use a screwdriver or a wedge of some sort. We're going to put it on the back side of the knuckle. You're going to see a split right there. We're going to go ahead and pop that in there. And what that's going to do is that's going to open this up and allow us to pull this lower ball joint out. Now I'm going to use a heavy duty punch right here, and I'm going to position it right on the control arm right beside the ball joint. What I'm going to try and do is the control arm is going to come down, hit that nut, and then in turn, it's going to pull the ball joint out of the knuckle. So we'll turn that in a little bit more. Line this up, give it a few whacks. You can see the ball joint starting to pull out of the knuckle, so that's a good thing. All right, now what we're going to do is go ahead and remove the nut off of the ball joint. At this point here, we can go ahead and try and separate these two. When we do so, we're going to try and maneuver this knuckle to move a little bit, like that. Go ahead. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a jack underneath the brake rotor itself right here. Now if your vehicle is up on jack stands, you can go ahead and use your jack on this here, and we're going to raise the suspension a little bit here. That's going to allow us to go ahead and get this ball joint out. I'm going to go ahead and spray the ball joint area where it's going to seat up into. Clean up any rusty debris, anything that might be stuck in there. Get that prepared to press the new one in. We're going to take our new ball joint and we're going to insert the lower portion first. I'm going to apply some anti-seize compound to the inside of where the ball joint is going to be sliding into. I'm going to go ahead and try and use the handle of my mallet to go ahead and get the threads to come through on this side right here of the ball joint. Once that comes through, I'm going to go ahead and get our nut started on there. I'm going to go ahead and snug that down to pull that ball joint down inside. I'm going to use an 18mm socket to go ahead and snug this up, and I will come back to torque that down later. With that positioned, we'll go ahead and pull the control arm down, bring our knuckle over, try and work that inward. To remove our jack from underneath the brake rotor, this may give us a little bit more control to slide this in. There we go. Now we're able to adjust our ball joint. We'll slide the knuckle over, get that in. Once that looks like it's lining up with that, go ahead and bonk the control arm. Pop it up in a position. You should be able to look through the pinch bolt hole and make sure that the groove of the ball joint is in there. Now we can go ahead and install our pinch bolt itself. Let's go ahead and remove our pry bar from this. Now this is a 16mm bolt. We're going to go ahead and snug that up. We'll snug up our bottom and then we'll go ahead and torque this down. I'm going to go ahead and torque our ball joint to the steel control arm, 28.8 foot-pounds. I want to make sure that our calcium nut lines up with the through hole here. Now I'm going to go ahead and feed our cotter pin through the calcium nut and the hole in the ball joint. I'm going to work that through. I'm going to bend over one of the tabs here, tap it up, and cut off the excess. Let's go ahead and torque our knuckle to ball joint bolt to 37 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and install our wheel. I'm going to get all of our lug nuts started by hand. Once we get these installed, we'll snug them down. I'm going to get and torque the lug nuts down to 88.5 foot-pounds.